Hello, I'm Dr. Michael Bergstrom, a retired orthopedic specialist with over 60 years of medical experience. At 92, I still enjoy daily walks, gardening, and playing with my great-grandchildren, activities many of my peers have reluctantly abandoned due to joint pain and stiffness. Are you struggling with painful, stiff limbs that make everyday movements a challenge? Have you been told that severe joint deterioration is simply an inevitable part of aging that you must learn to live with? What if I told you that I've discovered a simple, at-home technique that has helped hundreds of my elderly patients regain mobility they thought was lost forever? A method that doesn't require expensive equipment, prescription medications, or invasive procedures. Let me tell you about Margaret, a 76-year-old former elementary school teacher who came to my office last year. She could barely lift her arms above shoulder height, and her knees had become so stiff she needed assistance just to stand from a seated position. "Dr. Bergstrom," she told me, "I've tried everything. Pain medications that upset my stomach, cortisone injections that only work temporarily, even expensive physical therapy sessions. Nothing has given me lasting relief." When I suggested my 3-step cupping reboot protocol, Margaret was skeptical but desperate enough to try anything. Just 3 weeks later, she reported an 80% reduction in pain and remarkable improvement in mobility. 6 months after starting the protocol, she was back in her garden, an activity she'd regretfully abandoned years ago. You might be thinking, cupping? Isn't that just alternative medicine without real scientific backing? I understand your skepticism. In fact, I shared it myself until I developed debilitating shoulder pain at age 70 that threatened to end my surgical career. Before we dive into the science and specifics, comment below where in the world you're watching from. A respected colleague who had studied Eastern medicine suggested I try cupping before considering surgery. I was skeptical, but the results were so remarkable that I've spent the last 2 decades researching the physiological mechanisms and refining the technique specifically for aging joints. Margaret's case wasn't unusual. Like many seniors, she had tried conventional treatments with limited success. She'd spent thousands on therapies, endured painful injections, and still struggled with daily activities. I felt like I was slowly losing my independence. She confided during our first consultation. "My doctor kept increasing my pain medication, but the side effects were almost worse than the pain itself. What makes cupping uniquely effective for older adults is its ability to address the 3 primary causes of age-related joint pain simultaneously: reduced circulation, fascial adhesions, and chronic inflammation. As we age, blood flow to our extremities naturally decreases, tissue becomes less elastic, and inflammatory processes become more persistent. Modern research has confirmed what practitioners of traditional medicine have known for centuries. Cupping creates controlled microtrauma that triggers the body's healing response, dramatically increases blood flow to tissues that have become chronically oxygen-deprived, and helps break up fascial restrictions that develop over decades of use. The beauty of my modified approach is that it's specifically designed for older adults. This isn't the aggressive cupping you might have seen on Olympic athletes with dramatic purple marks. My method is gentle enough for fragile, aging skin, while still effective for reaching deep tissues. When Margaret first tried the technique, she was surprised by its simplicity. "I expected something complicated or painful," she told me later, "but it was actually quite relaxing, and I felt a pleasant warmth in my joints afterward." What truly convinced her was waking up the next morning and noticing she could reach the top shelf in her kitchen without wincing, something she hadn't done in years. Let me explain my 3-step cupping reboot protocol that's transformed the lives of hundreds of my elderly patients. Step 1 is preparation and targeting. Most people waste time cupping the wrong areas. For effective relief, you must first identify the specific trigger points. For knee pain, for instance, the key isn't directly on the knee itself, but rather along the quadriceps muscle about 4 inches above the kneecap. For shoulder pain, focus on the trapezius muscle between the neck and shoulder. I'll show you a simple self-assessment technique using your fingertips to locate these points where the tissue feels tight or tender. Step 2 involves my modified gliding technique. Traditional cupping can be too aggressive for aging skin and requires significant hand strength to apply. My method uses smaller, lightweight cups with a simple hand pump that requires minimal strength. The secret is gentle movement after placement, what I call tissue release gliding. After applying the cup, you'll slowly move it in small circles, allowing it to glide over slightly oiled skin. This stimulates circulation without causing bruising or skin damage. Robert, an 83-year-old patient who could barely turn his neck, was amazed after just 2 sessions. "I couldn't even check my blind spot while driving," he told me. "Now I can turn my head like I did 20 years ago." Step 3 is my strategic frequency protocol. Through years of clinical observation, I discovered older adults require a specific cupping schedule to avoid overstimulation while maintaining therapeutic benefits. The key is my 3-2-1 protocol. 3 sessions the first week, 2 the second, and 1 maintenance session weekly thereafter. Elaine, a 77-year-old patient, followed this exact schedule for her chronic knee pain. After 2 weeks, I climbed stairs without holding the railing for the first time in 5 years, she shared during her follow-up visit. By week 4, I returned to my hiking group, something my previous doctor told me would be impossible without surgery. Now, let me emphasize some important precautions before you try this technique. This method isn't appropriate for everyone, particularly those with certain skin conditions, uncontrolled diabetes, or blood disorders. If you're taking blood thinners, please consult your physician first, and never apply cups directly over varicose veins or areas with broken skin. James, a 69-year-old former construction worker, came to me after being recommended for hip replacement surgery. His orthopedist told him it was his only option for relief. After implementing my cupping protocol for 8 weeks, not only did his pain decrease significantly, but his range of motion improved to the point where surgery was no longer considered necessary. "I was prepared to go under the knife because I couldn't live with the pain," James told me. "Now I'm back to walking 2 miles every morning." What makes this approach so effective is that it addresses multiple aspects of aging physiology simultaneously. As we age, our fascial tissue, the connective tissue surrounding muscles and organs, becomes less elastic and develops adhesions, similar to how a rubber band becomes brittle over time. Cupping creates a gentle lifting effect that separates these stuck tissue layers. Simultaneously, the vacuum stimulates what we call mechanotransduction, the process by which physical forces are converted into biochemical responses within the body. This triggers release of nitric oxide, a powerful vasodilator that increases blood flow to oxygen-starved tissues. Perhaps most importantly for aging bodies, cupping activates fibroblasts, specialized cells responsible for collagen production. This helps restore elasticity to tissues that have become rigid and painful over decades of use. To maximize the effectiveness of this protocol, I recommend 3 complementary practices. First, proper hydration is essential. Drink half your body weight in ounces of water daily. For a 150-pound person, that's 75 ounces. Second, Incorporate my simple 3-minute morning mobility routine, which I'll demonstrate shortly. Third, limit inflammatory foods like processed sugars and refined carbohydrates, which can counteract the benefits of the cupping therapy. The real power of this 3-step cupping reboot lies in its consistency. Many of my patients notice immediate relief after their first session, but the lasting transformation comes from following the complete protocol. Margaret followed the system faithfully for 6 weeks before attempting to garden again. When she did, she called me in tears, not from pain, but from joy at reclaiming an activity that connected her to her late husband's memory. I found that patients who combine the cupping protocol with proper hydration experience results nearly twice as quickly. The enhanced circulation from cupping carries away inflammatory byproducts more efficiently when the body is well hydrated. Think of it as flushing a clogged pipe. Water is essential to the process. Many people ask if the dramatic purple marks, often associated with cupping, are necessary for the technique to work. The answer is absolutely not. And for older adults with thinner, more fragile skin, those marks can actually indicate too much suction was applied. Effective therapy produces only a light pinkness that fades within hours. Another common question concerns self-application. Can you perform this technique without assistance? For most areas, yes. I've designed my protocol specifically so that aging hands with limited strength can successfully apply the cups to most problem areas. For hard-to-reach spots, like the upper back, simple handle attachments or asking a partner for assistance works well. The beauty of this approach is its simplicity and sustainability. There are no ongoing costs beyond the initial investment in quality cups, which typically last for years. Compare this to prescription medications that must be refilled monthly or painful injections that need regular repetition as effects wear off. I've seen this technique transform the lives of hundreds of patients in their 70s, 80s, and even 90s who had resigned themselves to limited mobility and constant pain. The human body possesses remarkable healing abilities at any age. We simply need to activate the right mechanisms to trigger that healing response. Remember Charles, a fellow physician and friend, who, at 91, had given up hope after 5 decades of practicing medicine. 2 months after starting my protocol, he called me. "Michael," he said, "I danced with my wife last night for the first time in 15 years. I never thought I'd hold her like that again." This isn't about turning back the clock. It's about working with your aging body intelligently, rather than surrendering to pain. The techniques I've shared today tap into your body's natural healing mechanisms that remain viable well into your 90s. I've seen too many seniors give up activities they love because they believe joint pain is inevitable with aging. My mission is to change that misconception. Margaret, Robert, Elaine, James, and hundreds of others have reclaimed their mobility and independence using these simple techniques. Begin with just 5 minutes a day. Start with the gentlest suction on non-painful areas to become comfortable with the sensation. Gradually work toward the 3-2-1 protocol as your confidence grows. Within 2 weeks, you should notice significant improvement, not just in pain levels, but in your range of motion and overall energy. Remember, this isn't just about pain relief. It's about reclaiming your independence and joy in movement. Whether that means playing with grandchildren, tending your garden, or simply walking comfortably through your day. I'd love to hear your experiences after trying this protocol. Share your results in the comments below, or any questions you might have. Next week, I'll demonstrate my complimentary 3-minute morning mobility routine that pairs perfectly with this cupping technique. Until then, this is Dr. Bergstrom, wishing you pain-free movement and vibrant health regardless of your age.